We are back for the final segment of the night. We've got Will with us, and instead of looking at the beginnings and the starting procedures, we're rocking and rolling. We're looking to the future. So, Will, jumping in with that mindset, talking strategy, we want to recommend how we can go forward with whatever content we're creating. If we have a go-to-market plan for something that we've built well, we've protected it, and now we want to get it out there. How do we remain relevant and adaptable with what we are releasing and putting out there, knowing that the industry is inevitably going to change in some capacity?
Right. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, whatever your product or service does needs to anticipate the change for sure. And that's kind of on you to make sure that whatever you're building is relevant and needed. But on the
Yeah.
go-to-market side, on the content side, I think the most important part is looking at the trends really. So, and what I mean by that is how people are actually going to want to learn about your product, learn about your service, right? Not just doing something that has always been this, this is always how we do it. We do, we're going to do these kinds of ads and this kind of stuff and out there. Like if you look today, a big thing is realness, and I kind of use that word kind of half-heartedly, but nobody wants to watch fake stuff. They want to see real, genuine things happening. So if as a business, the content you have to produce has to be genuine. It has to look like something real is going on. Same thing from an information standpoint. If you write a blog, it needs to be educational and informative, not a pitch, right? So that's kind of the world we're in today. So I think looking at how your potential clients are going to respond to that type of stuff, and then being able to build your brand and your go to market around that.
I like that a lot. And would you say that there's possibly some bandwidth issues that you could throw in there as well? As you don't want to just max out all hands on deck, all resources, stuff like that. You need a little cushion either for emergencies or for growth and change to the market. And that way, when something becomes real, you can share that real experience by having built in the bandwidth to adapt and then share not only that story, but that product.
Right. I mean, honestly, that's just a great way to do your marketing in general. If I'm being honest, I like to say like when I create, I don't like to say I create content. I document what I do. So
Right.
all I'm doing is sharing my experiences with people, right? So it's 100%. This is the screw up I had today. This is the thing I learned working with these managed services company. This is the thing I learned from this cybersecurity person. And so you're just sharing that content, and people are learning from that information. And then for me, like as a brand, that builds my brand up and says, well, this is somebody that I'd like to work with. So you could do the same thing within your own branding. Is show not just showcase, oh, here's the product or here's the service and here's all the blinky lights, but actually your people, that's one thing, right? And then also showcasing the real things that are happening.
I like that a lot. I think, exposing yourself, your vulnerabilities to your failures and your mistakes. One of the things that I really try to do on the side of my consultation that is specific to other accounting firms, one of the things I tell them is, guys, I made a lot of really painful mistakes over the 2.5 years it took me to truly figure this out and have it done. I would like for you to learn from all of my mistakes instead of 2.5 years almost. I'd like you to do it in 2.5 months, right?
Mhm.
And there's a realness and a genuine quality. Of course, I got a lot of life experience out of that, but it makes it real, like you said, because they're in that suffering point, and I can help get you out of it. You're in some type of process where you need a service built, you need a delivery platform built, you need protection. And guys, I've been there, I've been in the market, and I'm going to help you with that. So I appreciate you exposing that. That is something that I think will probably hit home pretty good with the audience as well. And then kind of flows in with anticipating needs. For me, I get to say it's easy. I get an easy button on this one, right? Because me to anticipate needs, I know at a bare minimum, every 4 years, we're going to have an election cycle and some tax code is going to change, and I can build that in. Now, Congress can vote and pass things a lot more frequently, and they do that all the time. But I really easily get to say, hey, guys, we need this much training this frequently for all the tax code issues out, right? That's
Mhm.
given to me. Unlike people who have unexpected market change, maybe some new huge regulation comes out and the whole industry has to pivot, right? So, in anticipating needs, how do you get people to effectively be looking even at all at the future that at some point we're going to encounter a problem or a change?
Right, sure. Yeah, that goes back into sort of that product management mindset, or just having a business roadmap and understanding that your business, if you want it to be successful, is going to change over time too, based on the market conditions. And a lot of times what I'll do in some of my engagements when I'm assessing businesses too is I'll look at your ideal client profile, right? Or what you say your ideal client profile is. And then I'll look at your actual sales, and then we compare those two things together and go, well, you think you're selling to the mid-market, but you're actually selling to the small business space. Or you think that manufacturing is really valuable to you, but actually you got way more, way more opportunity in this retail organization. So taking that time to actually look at what it is you're doing, delivering, and who you're delivering it for, and then on the next step there is talking to them, not just delivering your service, delivering your technology, whatever it is with them, but actually going, hey, we're engaged, and you're going to have your business is also going to change in a few years. What are you looking at right now, right? What technologies are you looking to adopt? What types of things, what's going to change in your logistics world, whatever it is, right? Understanding their business and how that changes, and then you being prepared to adapt for it. I always say you don't want to, it doesn't do me any good to sell you a service that you need now. I need to know what service you need in 3 to 5 years from now so that I can be there to deliver it.
Well, and you say that too, is if I'm providing you a product or service now for today,
Right.
I can be building a product and navigating you into the right position where this product gets even more use. Maybe it's helpful today, but it's critical in the future because we've built it down your path. So I love that statement a lot. I think that's really important to look. Is that my dad used to do something that I did not appreciate until I became a father and drove kids around. Back when you could only print off directions on MapQuest or you had to use a map, one of the two, right? We would go to Florida every year. And my dad would say, look, it says it is 20 hours. So here we are, kids doing the math. How long is 20 hours? We're going to get there at this time tomorrow. My dad wants to drive straight through and just change with my mom driving. And he says, guys, it's not going to take 20 hours. It's going to take 22 hours because we got to stop and eat. We've got to get gas. There's going to be traffic somewhere along the way. This is a 22-hour trip to drive all the way from Michigan, all the way to Florida. And so but it says 20 hours. Kids didn't get it. But he had the foresight to say, I'm planning for the future, planning for the obstacles, planning for the gas, the traffic, the food. And I just now in a business mindset, kind of like what we're discussing today, hey, your journey is not going to be a pure 3-year KPI metric tracking journey. There's going to be speed bumps, traffic, gas, and food along the way. And I think you're really telling people that you can build anticipation into that. You can build a product or a service that addresses that along the way as well. I think that's a beautiful statement you made, Will. So some more of those challenges. How do we also plan for something's going to slap us in the face? COVID is going to show up. Maybe not that extreme, but some type of guys, at some point, we need to be ready to completely pivot. There's people out there that have their preppers and they have go bags and all that kind of stuff. How do we get a business go bag per se when something really bad goes on? We have to rely on these other resources or these other avenues. Again, you go through the product, go to market or cybersecurity side, getting people's minds right. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's tough because sometimes you can't. And I knew several people who had really great businesses with a lot of great potential, and due to something like COVID or regulation change, it just crushes you. And that's the risk we all take as entrepreneurs anyway, right? We all kind of know that that's the case, but in the case of where, I do have a business and it is able to move, I've got some left and right lateral movement that I can make and some adjustments I can do. I think you mentioned, you kind of hit the nail on the head. It's all about planning for that contingency. And I think most people that I know, like in the startup world, who have developed at least applications and technology, what they end up taking to market is rarely what they initially built or even thought that it was going to be like. So many people are like, I have this idea and here's what it's going to do. And then as soon as I talked about this earlier, like get it to market, it's not going to be perfect. And then once you do, your clients will start interacting with it and they're like, well, can you do this? Can it do that? And blah, blah, blah. So I think I'm saying all this to say, I think at the end of the day, it's listen to your client. That's how you prepare for it. Because I've also seen other companies who are like, well, no, that's not how you use it. It does this, it does this. And it's like, well, okay, but I don't need that. And so if you're going to be resistant to change, that's really where it could end up hurting you really bad. So I think you need to take that input into account and then let that drive your roadmap.
I love that. Listen to your client. That's how you're going to be made aware of the changes and the needs. Now, I also want to caveat that it's your business. You got to run your business, and you can't be completely beholden. You dictate your business activities, not your client, but you need to listen to your client as the market, as what the demands and the shift needs to go to. So that's a pretty huge statement that I think people probably need to hear a little more often, myself included. And then for us, we thought, you talk about, especially in the app world, of like, the product I released is not what the original vision and plan was in my head, but the needs dictated the outcome. And so for us, we started advisory services several years ago, and the advisory services drifted, but we're like, well, people need this whole other section. As business consulting is going to be born out of that, and Shelton Associates is going to stay in its wheelhouse in the tax and financial arena, but these other needs are going to be squeezed out into another venture. And so I think the ability for people to take that risk, to pivot and to make those changes happen, they have to have that mindset. Like you were saying, you're gonna get hit at some point. It's gonna change. You need to listen, you need to adapt, and you need to build that in. I think that's really good stuff. So going along those same lines, give us one last token real quick. If you were going to say everybody needs to watch out for these one or two threats potentially coming in the future, whether that's AI, whether that's government regulation, whatever it is, what is Will seeing as, here's the areas people are nervous about that could affect your business?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I think I, until we solve the ransomware problem, and I mean that by like being able to actually just almost, very high amount of time stop it from happening. And there are some things out there that are making a lot of progress on that. Until we solve that problem, because it's such a low barrier to entry, like I don't even have to do anything to, like, if I have money and access to the dark web, like I can pay somebody else to do it, and then we split the, we split the fee or whatever. So and people are just continually clicking on things they're not supposed to click onto. So I think and most people who are in my industry will probably agree with me too. I think even my master's thesis was based on this. It's still always about people. It's the human element in security. So, don't downplay training. Don't downplay, the need to have security. So, because again, the people are always going to be your biggest risk. As an example of all of this kind of tying both of these things together, I didn't realize it until I talked to somebody a little while ago, but in Japan, ransomware wasn't really a big deal because their language is very complicated until AI and learning language models came out. And now somebody who's not a native speaker can craft very good phishing emails. And so now that whole country now has to up their training and their efforts there. So it's just still always people.
That's good. Well, hey, I appreciate that. That's great advice for us to take over. The human element is always there. Nothing's going to beat good, solid training. And then, of course, AI has opened a whole new market for whole new people to be touched with malicious and really good things happening. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Tell us how we can find you and get a hold of you so we can get your services to do all of the stuff we've been talking about tonight.
Yeah, sure. Appreciate that. So I'm very active on LinkedIn. It's /Will Klu, WILKLU. I truncate it so it's nice and short. That's also my website, wilklu.me. There's an outreach form on there. And I do host a podcast called The Keyboard Samurai, which is on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and my website. And you'll see it on LinkedIn. So pretty easy to find.
Fantastic. Thank you again, sir. And for everyone in the audience, thank you for tuning in tonight. We'll be back next week with more pivotal change. And in the meantime, we want you to go out there and see the change and be the change. We'll catch you here next time. Have a good night.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.